Hi everyone, Jules here. As you can hear, I'm a little sick, having a cold, but I decided to use this opportunity when my voice is completely different to record something. I have my tea, I have my notes, and today I want to talk about open water. This is chapter yours. Before I dive into this fantastic book, I want to give you an update on my reading. Over the weekend, I stayed home. I wasn't feeling so well, so I've been reading for 2 days straight, and I finished reading Wuthering Heights, which is also coming as a video. I'm currently also reading Paradise Lost, which is an epic poem by John Milton. It's difficult read. It's challenging read, but I love it so far. So stay tuned. Good things are coming. So Open Water was the first physical book I read in 2025. And it came to me as a recommendation from Instagram, obviously. It was first published in 2021. It was written by Caleb Azumah Nelson. As you can see, I marked a lot of great things, not only quotes, but also phrases, because Nelson has a very unique storytelling style, which I will tell you about. This book felt to me like a warm electric blanket that you just wrap yourself around on a dark, cold night. It was wonderful. I don't think I've ever read a book like this before. As a writer, I sometimes feel not maybe judgmental, but I do pay attention to people's writing styles. That's why I don't really like reading report kind of books, like documentary kind of books, because okay, side note, I always wanted to be a journalist. I almost applied for this type of studies in Poland, but I thought this through and went with something else entirely. But I wrote a lot of those news articles, those pieces of nonfiction, and I evolved and I developed my own writing style for this kind of writing. That's why it's so hard for me to write someone else's non-fictional stories when they're reporting on something, because maybe I would report it in another way. Nevertheless, I'm growing in my reading journey, so I'm trying. But as a writer, I must give credit when credit is due, because I can guarantee that you have never read anything like this. And some people struggle with this kind of poetic writing, but for a short piece like Open Water, it was absolutely phenomenal. And as I will tell you guys a couple of quotes from here, perhaps that is how we should frame this question forever. Rather than asking what is your favorite work, let's ask what continues to pull you back. For the first one that I opened, your few days together have been spent doing nothing really, which is an intimacy in itself. Just the flawlessness and the airness, the lightness in his writing is absolutely phenomenal. So whenever I was reading this book in my bathtub, because that's mainly when I read sometimes. Yeah, I just said it. That's the thing. I was just constantly reaching for my pencil and just like trying not to wet the pages. Another one here that I have is how to turn, and my note here, because I've been also annotating for the first time, I think, how to turn something seemingly negative into something powerful. And the quote is, so you retreated, or let's say you advanced. Like, wow. But writing style itself, I could gush and gush and gush all over this. How does one shake off desire? To give it a voice is to sow seed, knowing that somehow, some way it will grow. It is to admit and submit to something which is on the outer limits of your understanding. But overall, this book touches upon so many great and heavy subjects: love and intimacy, masculinity, identity, race. And as you go through it and following a journey of two young people who met in a pub in London, you can easily relate. Maybe, and obviously not to racial issues, because this is something that I want to understand, but I could never relate to. There is so many things that I could see myself into. And one of the things that I also loved about this book was that Nelson, on purpose, didn't provide the names of main characters. They were nameless. We know them as he and she and them, but never referred to by name, which makes it all more relatable, which I absolutely adore. Not sure if I could do it in my books, because in my book, the main character is named Kate, after my mom and my boss, Kate. Both, I see that in my life, Kates are super important, and I feel like I want to reflect that in my writing as well. But another thing that Nelson and I have in common is a playlist, because the first thing I noticed when I opened this book, listen to the Open Water playlist on Spotify. Mad respect for this. I did listen to this. I struggle with listening to regular songs when I'm reading, because they sometimes are distracting. I focus on the lyrics instead of what I'm reading in front of me. So I usually listen to movie soundtracks. So I opened this book, I saw the playlist, and I went through the playlist first, and it didn't make such an impact for me, because while reading interviews with the author, he wanted this book to be like kind of like a lyrical album, which it is. This book is very lyrical, and the songs complete the picture. So I still recommend reading this book with the playlist on. There are mentions here of those songs of Kendrick Lamar, amazing. But I want to see more of those kind of dedicated playlists tailored specifically for the book by the author, because you can go to Spotify and you will find tons and tons of playlists created by fans, by readers, to fit their mood. But this will always reflect the reader's mood, not the author's mood, which is quite important in this one. There are a lot of references in this book, one of which was quite important, and I think for the author as well, Zadie Smith. I have never heard about this author before, but this book convinced me to go for one of her books. And I purchased White Teeth, which is, for me, right after I finished Paradise Lost. And I cannot wait, because reading the description of White Teeth got me completely hooked. It's a brickish kind of book, which is what I need, what I love, what I like. So I will keep you guys posted. But you can tell that Zadie Smith had an influence on Nelson. And, you know, this is amazing, because when you are influenced by someone so important in your life, like I was by my mom, by my boss, I decided to name one of the characters in my book Kate. It sticks with you, and it reflects the kind of people that you have around you. And I'm planning also a video on Tuesdays with Maury. Fantastic book. I don't want to spoil too much about it now, but I was talking with my friend John at work the other day, and he got me thinking about people that we have in our lives that influence us. He told me that he's fortunate enough to have a Maury in his life. And I told him, for me, not yet. And that's also what I think happened in this book when it comes to referencing Zadie Smith, perhaps on a different level, but still fantastic. I just opened the first page, and it's rare for me to outline a quote on a first page, but I did. And this is actually also a quote that I have in my notes that sums up the chemistry and the situation between the main characters, the male and the female, perfectly. The two of you, like headphone wires tangling, caught up in this something. A happy accident, a messy miracle. And this very line was all I needed to immediately fall in love with this book. I am a fan of shorter stories. For me, they are significantly more difficult to write because you only have a limited number of pages to be considered a short story. And while this is not necessarily 80 pages for like a very brief one, but to convey so much tenderness and to touch readers' hearts in such a direct but inspiring manner is absolutely remarkable, and even hard and even harder in this shorter format.
You are scared. You know what you want, but you don't know what to do. This pain isn't new, but it's unfamiliar, like finding a tear in a piece of fabric.
For me, this book was an ode to love, but not only this romantic love, because there are a lot of things happened between the two characters, but it's an ode to love of life, love of yourself, love of your identity, but also fear. The main character struggles a lot with masculinity, with his identity, with race, and essentially being a Black man living in this world. And it's for someone who is not a subject to those kind of fears. For myself, I really felt it for someone else. It is hard for people to empathize in these situations, but I definitely got a grip of those feelings that the other side might feel. The emotions exposed in this book are completely raw. Like, there is no sugarcoating them. It's exactly how it is, how we see this. And really, there is no room to left anything out, because everything is out in the open with both of the characters. And the male character, he's a photographer, he's an artist, a lover, a dreamer. He wants to make it out in the world, and it's hard when you're young and chasing your dreams. Sometimes people want you to leave those dreams behind, and it's just not your style. He wants to love and to be loved just the way he is. And this even adds to the struggle, because sometimes he doesn't know who he is, which is a beautiful thing to tackle when you're a writer, because it also exposes your own feelings as a writer. He wrestles with being vulnerable and with the emotional weight of racial injustice. And there are a couple of scenes in this book that showcase this racial injustice. There is this one quote after this police kind of personal control situation. The officer says, "You're free to go." And the character responds, "Are we ever free?" This is such a powerful scene to envision. And I'm not sure if there are any adaptations happening, but if there are, for me, the perfect director for a movie would be Barry Jenkins. If you haven't seen If Beale Street Could Talk, do yourself a favor and watch it. If you haven't read the book, again, do yourself a favor and read it, because book written by James Baldwin, if I'm not mistaken, but if I am, I'm sorry, I will, if I'm mistaken, I will just put it on the screen, the author, but I think I'm not. Anyway, the book is so tender. The chemistry is just pouring out of the pages, and Barry Jenkins did the same thing with his storytelling. He has a very distinctive storytelling technique, and if you've seen any of his movies, you can see the pattern. So I would see Barry Jenkins doing this book justice on the big screen.
You know that to love is both to swim and drown. You know, to love is to be a whole, partial, a joint, a fracture, a heart, a bone. It is to bleed and heal. It is to be in the world, honest.
Fantastic read, and I had to dose myself the pages because I didn't want it to go through this one too fast. Really, this is honestly a one night stand, not in this negative connotation to the word, to the term, really, but if you want to get yourself back out there with reading and short stories maybe are not your thing, try this one, and I promise you, you have a guarantee that you will love this book. You will absolutely love it. So we have the narrator, the unnamed protagonist, like I said, photographer, dreamer, lover. He wants to love and to be loved, but he struggles with his emotions, even though they are so openly out there for him and for us to read, not necessarily for the people around him. He is deeply introspective, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is because it gives you this field for reflection and also therefore for improvement of your life, your qualities in life and everything. But the downside of being so deeply introspective is that everything is happening inside of you. You don't talk about it too much. You don't share it with others. And when you're in a relationship with someone who loves you and someone who wants to see you succeed in life, that is tough because you don't communicate. And I think I also read Normal People by Sally Rooney, and the main problem described in the book is lack of communication. And in Open Water, there's also this lack of communication, but it's described so drastically different and so much better.
You stood to the side and watched your relationship fall apart. It was easier to do this. It was simpler and cowardly. To love someone like that, to know how beautiful and wholesome and healing such love is, and to turn your back on it required no strength at all.
On the other side of our main character, there is a woman. She's a dancer, she's a muse, a free spirit, and kind of not only his lover, but also a mirror to his struggles. They have a connection. They meet in a bar, and she is with someone else at the time. She's dating someone else, but she has this instant connection with our main character, which causes a question of kind of like ethics and morality. Oops, sorry. Of ethics and morality. Like, how do you act when your friend is dating someone? Your friend is dating a woman with whom you feel this instant, deeply soul-like level connection with. And it's tough. I don't think I've ever been in a situation like this, and I don't know what I would do. But it's a good motive in a book. She's very creative and compassionate. She's strong yet vulnerable, which is one of my favorite traits of a woman. This is something that I'm cultivating in myself as well, being strong, but also openly vulnerable with my emotions and with what I'm feeling. She wants love, understanding, but also freedom. And that freedom is something that our main character struggles with. She also carries her troubles and past wounds, but she handles them quite differently than our narrator. The main themes in this book, like I've mentioned, love and intimacy between the two characters. The love between them is very raw, is very emotional. It's completely out there, and it began not necessarily physically, but emotionally and on a soul-like level, which is just so rare in today's economy of feelings out there. But there is also very important aspect of this kind of love that our author puts on paper as well, is the fear of losing one another. Maybe that they don't necessarily say it out loud, but they are very afraid to lose each other because of how intense and emotional their connection is. And like I said, it didn't start on this physical level, but it started on this deep emotional soul level. And this kind of connection it's like a cosmic fluke. And to lose that is the biggest pain of all. Another thing is also art and expression. For both of characters, photography and dancing are ways to express themselves. And there is this dialogue between them. And I will read it to you kind of poetically in a montage. When they are talking about who they are in professional life and how they don't want to be labeled, which is really good. And you cannot always afford to say this so freely if you don't feel that connection with someone. So once again, a win.
I guess, you startup, I guess it's like knowing that you are something and wanting to protect that. I know I'm a photographer, but if someone else says I'm that, it changes things. Because what they think about me isn't what I think about me. Sorry, I'm rambling.
The novel also explores what it means to move through the world as a Black person carrying pain and fear. And I'm not going to explain it. I just encourage you all to read, especially with everything that's happening today. Because we really tend to underestimate other people's feelings, and it's just horrible. This is an integral part of this book, love aside. But like I said, the romantic love is one thing, but the love for yourself and for your identity is another one. And struggle with it is just throughout this book constant. Overall, what I took away from this book is tons of quotes and phrases and those little things that I never thought of using, but then again, I felt when I read this book, I felt like I found a kindred spirit in the author. It gave me this feeling of understanding on a deeper level. There is this quote here that I added a note to, and the note says, confusingly beautiful. And the quote is, so now you're here without her presence, which is heavier in her absence. Who says that these days? And why are not people using these kind of phrases in their daily life? It would be so much more beautiful and so much more magical. It's just really, really wonderful. And I'm really happy that I started my year with this book. I gave it 5 stars out of 5. It's currently, I think, the highest ranked book on my 27 something books that I've read. Absolutely stunning, very tender. And if you do like this kind of literature like Baldwin or movies made by Barry Jenkins, this is your jam. But even if it's not, please give it a try. Take this as kind of a must-read book for 2025. You will not regret this, I promise. And if you will regret it, I will make it up to you, but I doubt it. So consider this a recommendation for this week, for you, for a weekend maybe, for an evening with a cup of tea. Speaking of, I should probably try if I made a good one. Oh yeah, it's my Tintin mug that I got from my friend. Actually, I won it in a contest, but it was sent to me by a friend, so amazing. So do yourself a favor. I promise you will not regret it. In terms of making things up to you, I don't know how I will do that, but then again, I'm absolutely not worried that I will have to. So open water, add it to your to be read list, and let me know what you think. Thank you guys for sticking around for another episode. I hope you liked it and speak to you soon. Bye!